And welcome to the New Shoreham Town Council meeting for Monday, April 14th. Call the meeting to order at 7:02. See the supporting documents for this agenda. We have them up on Clerkbase on the New Shoreham page. And if you want to watch the meeting, the proceedings on YouTube, it's on the YouTube New Shoreham page. Item number 1 on the agenda is public comment. Does anybody have any public comment that doesn't deal with anything on the agenda this evening? Alicia Miro?
I have to stand up.
What's that?
Yeah. So do I have to stand up? Which I love talking into a microphone. Hi. Just want to thank the council for their efforts for affordable housing. As a community member who has moved a dozen times, maybe more, I appreciate the effort that you guys are making for affordable housing. I did have a quick conversation with Blake Philippi today regarding some revenue generation for affordable housing and some ideas that I would hopefully hope that the council would look into. With the real estate 3% that goes to the land trust, we were thinking, I guess there's a cap at 5% according to the regulation, I guess, or legislation. Possibly extending that, changing that legislation to max that out at 5%, 2% going to affordable housing, 3% keeping with in line with the land trust, or finding another way around that and reallocating that 3% land trust, giving 2% to affordable housing and 1% to land trust. Just something, hopefully, that's real money. That's properties are selling. You get 2% on $1 million house. That's a good start for affordable housing. And then another kind of idea I was thinking of, I don't know if it's possible to regulate the real estate companies to subtract that 1% from the rentals that they're renting out for the homeowners, take that 1% right out and then send a check to the town at the end of the season. I feel as though the 1% rental tax is kind of seemed like maybe we'll pay it this year, maybe we don't have to pay it. Some people don't send the form in, some people do. I don't know if that's a state law or is that a town ordinance? I don't know if anybody has that.
Comment is just supposed to be a comment.
Okay.
But that is a state law and
Okay.
realtors do collect it. The realtors are the least of them.
Okay. Then I guess that's it.
The other is all of the other people who are out there, the Airbnb and all of that.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
And Alicia, you're just not a community member, you're a true Islander.
Thank you, Alicia. Charlie Dodge?
Yeah, good evening. I only have a couple questions. It's kind of a comment thing, but when it comes up on item number 6 on the riparian rights for moorings in the harbors, it almost sounds like, if I'm to understand right, that nobody's charged for tying up down in the old harbor, or they're not charged for a more fee for having the mooring. Is that correct?
It is on the agenda on 6th, Harbor Master.
Will you cover that when you talk about it?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you can absolutely comment on that during that discussion.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Chris Warfel, do you have your hand up?
I did. And I literally have lost what I was going to say. It had to do with something that Alicia had said. I do remember now. If I made a motion. With the 1% collection from all summer rentals that was supposed to happen, Martha, I think it's correctly said that the real estate agencies are the least of the problem. And I'm wondering if we can get an update on what the response has been from the letters that have gone out, how many have been unanswered, how many have been responded to, et cetera. I'd like to know what the success rate, the hit ratio is on these, so we can gauge, roughly what is not being collected. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Item number 2, see any more public comment? Item number 2 on the agenda is to set the public hearing date for the comprehensive amendment throughout the New Shoreham zoning ordinance delineating the duties of the zoning official from the building official and additionally amending Article 6 Administration, Section 602 Zoning Officer Qualifications, Powers and Duties. Let me see, what is that, 45 days or 30 days? No,
It does need to be posted for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay, thank you very much. I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for May 3rd, 2022 at 7 PM at Town Hall. Would that be correct?
At the town council meeting.
Town council meeting. Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. Discussion? Public? Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor, Keith?
Yes.
Martha? I'm in favor. Sven and Mark.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item number 3 on the agenda is to set the public hearing date for an amendment to the New Shoreham zoning ordinance, section 513, accessory apartments. I'll make a motion to approve this public hearing for May 3rd, 2022 at 7 PM at Town Hall.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. 2 public hearings.
Yep.
Any discussion? Chris Waffle?
Some of us, as you know, in the community have been working on amendments for this. And this really caught us by surprise. I would say that this was going to be an amendment to the 513. I thought, from what I understood, this would be like processes to not involve rewriting the ordinance.
Hold on. Chris.
Hold on.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Clarify.
First, Sven or Keith? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the fix for the Thomas property. We had the 513 concentration was sunset. So it's to fix that, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that clears up any, I hope that clarifies the whole 513, because I know this has happened before. As soon as you mentioned 513, I assume that that's what it was.
But there won't be any more discussion ever again. No, just joking. It's gonna get around 6 and 7. Just to fix that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, Mark? Sven? I'm in favor, Martha and Keith. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 4, discuss and act on the update from the Sea Level Rise Committee.
So before Judy gets up, oh no, go ahead, Judy. But before Judy gets up, one of the things that you had talked about when we appointed Sea Level Rise was hearing updates often from the Sea Level Rise Committee. Also, on the Sea Level Rise Committee, I'm somewhat of a liaison with the town council. Rather than me give the update, we thought Judy would be best. So.
Hello, thank you.
I agree.
And it is Jules's 75th birthday today, so she's here missing a birthday.
I'm going to leave as soon as my comments are done and they're done questioning me so that I can try and join the end of dinner.
No, you're not.
Judith Gray, Sands Pond Road, and Chair of the Sea Level Rise Committee. The town of New Shoreham created a Sea Level Rise Committee last autumn, and we have had so far 5 monthly meetings, November through March, and 3 special sessions organized by Town Councilor Sven Rissam to help us get started. Our November and December meetings were about just getting us organized and what's a committee and what does it mean to be a committee in the town. In January, our special sessions was when we really started working. We had a special session with Teresa Crean from Rhode Island Sea Grant on sea level threats and predictions and activities in other Rhode Island communities, and a presentation by Caitlin Chafee from the Narragansett Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve on sea level rise funding opportunities. In February and March, everyone on the committee and in the audience was asked to bring to the February meeting what they considered to be the 5 big ideas, challenges, or sea level rise things on which the committee should focus. People in February submitted a mix of problems, solutions, methodologies, and resources, and what we ended up with was a list of apples, oranges, and mixed berries. In the regular February meeting, those ideas were collected in a brainstorming session. We did a little bit of list reduction and affinity mapping. That continued, and in March, we actually had a list of everything that had been submitted and mapped, and people voted on what they thought 1 to 10 should be the priorities of the committee. The voting was then, it resulted in what still looked a little bit like fruit salad. So our next special session, which was postponed from last Thursday, will be facilitated by Caitlin Chafee, again from the Estuarine Research Reserves, and Jennifer West from Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. And they have agreed to help us work on the wording of our priority list, to work with the committee on boiling that list down, making it make sense so that it comes with each priority has a problem, whatever solutions we know about, methodologies and resources wherever we are right now. We're creating a skeleton, which is by no means complete, but it's something we hope to be able to use for public outreach and as a framework for the town to request funds. Throughout, we're trying to figure out the best next steps for the town and for the committee. We've not agreed on the final wording, but I'm happy to share with you that the top priorities are something like Corn Neck Road, no surprise there, which may be addressed in more than one section since the problems change as you move from south to north. Bridgegate Square, that includes the low level of Ocean Avenue where there's so much infrastructure and freshwater runoff. Dune migration and marsh migration. The list is, of course, much longer. And for example, people express concerns about Sandy Point and the bluffs. And what I want to assure everyone is that nothing fell off the list. However, we have set the priorities that I just listed for you. It was fascinating when a committee member described how the final voting looked nothing like the votes that they had submitted. However, when they then went on to describe what the committee should be focused on, it was Corn Neck Road, Bridgegate Square, marshes, and dunes. So I feel like the process we used was a pretty robust, and that people in the committee at least are satisfied. One thing that we have discussed is for the committee to stay on pace with our Block Island neighbors. To that end, 2 committee members have taken it upon themselves to create a public communications framework, which will be presented to the committee at our April meeting tomorrow at 3:30 in this room. Part of that framework is to include more of the community in our special sessions. For example, when we invite people to speak with the committee, people like Brian Oakley, who we want to bring out to the island to speak about our sea level rise priority list and his experience as the Rhode Island State geologist with addressing sea level rise issues. This is something that we believe would be of broad interest, and we really want to do a better job of advertising across the community. At our regular meetings, in addition to committee business, committee members are making brief presentations on what they are learning. In March, we heard an overview about nature-based sea level rise solutions being used in Holland. In April, tomorrow, we'll hear about tide gauges. And at our May 3rd meeting, Scott Cummings is going to provide a brief description of his experience with reef balls and other wave attenuation technologies. As for next steps, one certainly is to work with the town on appropriate public outreach. Another is assisting with the development of the town's next hazard mitigation plan. And of course, developing next steps is the purpose of our soon to be rescheduled session on the top priorities. The collaborative mission of the Sea Level Rise Committee is to ensure a safe future for the people of Block Island. Our group is committed to productive community collaboration, knowing effective communication among our population is the way that we can move forward together. The framework that we're creating for communication creates space for community engagement, communication, access to data, and relative honest discussions. We recognize the challenge of developing the best strategies for public engagement to promote understanding, education, and clarity for our community. Nonetheless, we aim to forge ahead on the urgent and specific issues with which our committee has been tasked, and we look forward to engaging our community at every step that we take. On a personal note, working on a committee that is subject to sunshine laws or whatever they are, so that everything the committee does must be conducted in a public forum, is unlike anything I've ever experienced before. So I would like to say many thanks to the town clerks, pretty much all of them, I think, and the town manager for holding my hand and trying to keep me from stepping on too many landmines. I'd like to thank the town planner for keeping the committee focused, and I'm hoping that we're very helpful to her specifically. And I'd like to thank you, the town council, for highlighting the importance of sea level rise to the long-term sustainability of our town. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. Council, have anything to add to that?
How do you sort of over the long haul, how do you rank these? In other words, there's sort of like, there's so many different ways you could rank them. By
So
cost or by public benefit or by
well,
bang for buck, you know,
right.
and I was just curious about how you went about it.
So we aren't going to say that we're going to pursue dune migration to the exclusion of Corn Neck Road. What we're trying to do, we have a committee of about 10 people. What I hope to do is find people who are really interested in each of those and can provide some leadership on that. And then we're looking for funding opportunities. We're looking for partners. I've already set up a meeting with Pam Rubinoff from the Rhode Island Sea Grant to talk about pulling together other communities who are in the exact same position that we are, the town of Charleston, city of Barrington, North Kingston's ahead of us, but I've talked to her about pulling all of us together to have a forum where we're all sharing where we are and what we're doing and where are you looking for funding and looking for opportunities, like I said, to partner with people to increase our chances of success. Each one of the things I mentioned is in a different, most of them haven't had no work done at all except Corn Neck Road. And so we're a little further along with that one, but we'll chase money wherever we can.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
I just might I just add, the bluffs and, the other, I would say outlying higher areas. It is interesting to keep a look as to the erosion on those. I know I've flown a drone where I live and over the months can go by and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, look at that. There's another piece that's missing. So maybe if you just kept an eye out, I'm sure somebody in the community would.
Well, okay, so I have good news on that. And that is that Brian Oakley has been mapping the bluffs and the erosion on the bluffs for years. And he's continuing to do that. So
That's great.
Yeah, so that is being examined. The issue with the bluffs is a freshwater issue. It's freshwater seepage. And so, if it was a sea level rise issue, then it might be higher on our list of priorities, but it isn't it's a climate issue perhaps, but it's not specifically a sea level rise issue, certainly not rising to the importance of Corn Neck Road or Bridgegate Square at this time.
Yeah, Corn Neck and Bridgegate have been discussed for many years on
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, appreciate your focus and drive. Much.
Well, thank you.
Tell Jules we all said happy birthday and we all expect a cupcake in about an hour and a half. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss and act on the request from Rustic Rides to use town roads. It's a request that comes to us every year. Every year is approved with the conditions. So I'll make a motion to approve the request of Rustic Rides Incorporated to use Old Mill Road, Gracie's Cove Road, Dory's Cove Road, and Champlain Road from May through September 2021, and to use all other town roads from October 2021 through May 2022, with the requirement that Rustic Rides continue to work and cooperate with Superintendent of Roads Mike Shea and the town manager regarding road maintenance requests, including repairing roadsides after each season.
Could you just reread the dates? Yeah, I think your dates you're off.
I think,
About the second, but I'm just checking the dates.
all right, from May, it would be September 2022.
To May 2023, right?
And to use all the town roads from, yes. Yeah, Champlin Road would be, all right, let me reread the motion. I move to request of public rides, move to approve the request of Rustic Rides to use Old Mill Road, Gracie's Cove Road, Dory's Cove Road, and Champlin Road from May to September 2022, and to use all other town roads from October 2022 through May 2023.
Second.
With the requirement that Rustic Rides continue to work and cooperate with Superintendent of Roads Mike Shea and the town manager regarding road maintenance requests, including repairing roadsides after each session. This is why we approve this every year. I didn't change the dates for this year. My apologies. Second made by Sven. Any discussion? Public?
Yeah, just quickly, usually we have a representative here to answer any questions. So I'll ask, are there any violations or problems from the previous year that we know of?
Nothing that's come to my attention.
Thank you, Mark. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor, Mark
Aye.
and Keith, Sven and Martha. I am in favor. Motion will carry 5-0. Motion. Item number 6, discuss and act on the recommendation from the Harbors Committee for the establishment of the following fees. A, riparian mooring annual fee, and B, first year base fee for charter and commercial permits. Kate, do you want to
As you all know, the harbor management plan is in its final approval. When that gets approved, the riparian moorings will be legal. As of right, and so as it states in the harbor management plan, they will be on the same requirements as a private mooring, and we'll need to have a marine service provider. And so I will be able to know what is going into the pond. It affects probably 6 people as of right now. As of right now, there is no fee, and I think that they should be held accountable for a fee the same amount as a resident mooring, which is $200 base fee plus a registered vessel, which is, I believe, $375.
Thank you. Charlie Dodge.
Yeah, I have a question. Are the people that have the moorings and have, once the mooring permits issued, are they required to carry insurance? Because in the past, years before you were here, we had a problem with people abandoning boats here. Especially the ones that are being lived by. People just leave them and there was nothing to pay for it. The town ended up eating it. And we had to remove them. There was one left in the ramp in New Harbor, and there was one left to sink on the mooring that we dealt with years ago. I'm just curious, is there any requirement that they carry insurance? Like in town of Chatham and on the Cape, if you have it, you have to, on your policy, it has to name the town of Chatham is covered, so you can haul out in that town, go over their ramps, and or if something happens and the boat goes down, then the town is covered.
Is that on the riparian moorings in those areas or all of
It's all moorings on the
all
Cape.
moorings? Yeah, okay.
There is no dock space.
I can venture, I'll have Kate answer you on that.
There's no requirement on insurance, but I don't see any derelict boats out there.
Okay, yeah, right, but,
I'm pretty right on that.
okay, all right, just curious.
Charlie, I understand. I remember those days. I
Yeah.
probably had, one of them was probably mine.
Every boat that has a mooring is registered,
Right,
so if we want to go further and require insurance, that's a whole other.
no, I was just curious,
Yeah.
not knowing what's in the ordinance, so.
Thank you, Charlie.
One quick question, Kate. Just to make sure for everybody's clarification, once the harbor management plan is approved, one can have a public mooring and a riparian mooring, or only one? Thank you. That was a huge debate, if you remember, for a long time. So that if you have a riparian mooring, which means your house is on, your land is on Great Salt Pond, then you are entitled to apply for a riparian mooring?
Correct.
Thank you.
If you're, and we had this discussion, if your mooring is in the middle of the anchorage, it needs to be relocated to the most, to the closest designated mooring field.
At your discretion.
Correct.
Thank you.
Council have anybody up from the council want to comment on that? I'll make a motion to implement an annual fee of $200 plus $3.75 per vessel footage for all riparian mooring holders as recommended by the Harbors Committee. You need a date on that? Effective? Effective Monday, April 4th, 7:26 PM.
Second.
All those in favor? Keith, Martha, I'm in favor, Mark, and Sven. Motion carries 5-0. Item number B on that, first year base fee for charter and commercial permits. We do have a memo on that. It's up on clerk base. Kate, you want to
Sure, so.
take that too?
There's been some movement down in Old Harbor with people giving up their slips. And when you get a mooring permit, you have a year to get all of your paperwork organized together. For a slip, there's a little more paperwork involved. But there is no base fee. 2 individuals were issued permits. And I gave them a year to get their paperwork in, and there was no base fee to hold those slips. They were rented out by the town. But I think that there should be a base fee set, which goes towards their mooring permit for the following year, once they get their paperwork. Is that clear?
It is, thank you. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. I'm currently on the waiting list for commercial slip in Old Harbor. And I was told there were 7 in front of me. And I asked what the requirements were. They said, well, until their name comes up, they're not required to put the paperwork in. And she just answered that. They have a year to come up with it, which seems like you're putting the cart in front of the horse to me. I'm a commercial fisherman. That's what I've done my whole life. I used to have a slip in Old Harbor. I've moved back home and I'm still commercial fishing, and I'm trying to get set up to go to business here. I already have all my permits in place for direct sales to the restaurants, off the boat, have my state of Rhode Island limited access permits, and I need a place to put a boat. And I'm just trying to figure out how this works, because you can buy a boat today and you can go online and buy a tuna permit. That's not a commercial fisherman. It's a federal permit. Anybody can buy it. It's in general public for $27. I just want to know, is there a standard that you go by, or what the deal is? That's, I don't understand. I'm serious. Any other place, Rhode Island claims to be a commercial fisherman. A, you can't have somebody else run your boat. The permit holder has to be on the boat operating it. And B, you have to have 40 landings a year at commercial sales to be qualified. So I'm just trying to figure this out.
I can tell you.
All those requirements can be found in the Old Harbor dock policy. We have those same.
Is that the Army Corps' harbor management plan policy? Because the town had to submit one years ago. I know, I was involved in putting it together. I was on the harbor committee back then. I know it's been changed and it's been amended, and you're amending it right now. But where do I get a copy of that?
Where do you get a copy of what?
The harbor management plan that you have filed with the Army Corps of Engineers for how it's to
I'll give you a
work.
copy of that tomorrow.
All right, I'll stop by. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. And we did have this discussion in the past. It was, I think what you're talking about is a policy of who's on the waiting list, and it came up with the taxi cabs, your name comes up and then you're not ready for it. I have maintained then, and I maintain now, that I think if you put your name on there, you should be ready for it, because it shows that you're just serious about the business. That was the policy that was passed in the past. Right now, the discussion is on, a base fee for those slips. It's a different discussion.
That's fine.
I hear you. That's where we're at.
I have a question. Yeah.
And Martha and then Sven.
The charter wouldn't be a charter, would it?
No,
We have a commercial list and a charter set. If your name comes up, so some people go on other lists because they just want slip. So whatever comes up, commercial slip is a little less in the fee, charter slip a little more. What's your question?
I guess that I probably completely wrong about this. I thought the West Dock was
That's the commercial.
the working, what I'll call the working fishing.
Yes.
Probably nobody can beat this. And that, whoa, and that's what Charlie would be, the working fisherman, not the charter fisherman. I thought the South Dock was the charter and the West Dock was the working. And I may just be the way it happened.
I'm not quite sure of your question.
I'm asking if that's just a delusion of mine.
No, it's still base.
Okay. But, so the list applies to either one? I guess that's what I'm looking for. If you have, it's so clear in my head. I don't know why I can't
Can I help you out there?
articulate it.
Can I help you out there? Because I
Sure.
understand what you're trying to say. Are there charter boats on the west dock, on the fishing dock? Because I know, are there charter slips?
There are two, and that was way before my time. They were allowed to go there. So-
And that may, I think I remember this, and I think I remember this discussion also, and it may have been a function of there was no commercial people who wanted the slips, so the charter guys moved over, so those slips would be filled with something. Yeah,
But they're paying the charter fee.
right. Yeah. Is that your
People
question,
wanna be
Martha?
Over on that side because of the pilots. It's a lot safer. They can do their year round. So.
Yeah. On this item, I understand. I mean, this is
I
this,
totally, can I just say something?
no, absolutely.
I totally agree with you, and there was one individual that I gave the permit to, and he was not prepared at all. So I see everybody else on that list, they have all of their paperwork, they have their votes, they have to have their business plan. I gave this individual an opportunity, and he held that up for a year, which could have gone to somebody else.
Yeah, we did have that discussion, you know, I'll just on that topic, just before I will go back to this and I'll make a motion, but we had this discussion about the commercial side and, hoping to encourage more commercial locals to be down there. I think it's a philosophical discussion we need to have in the town, a continuing discussion, because it does come up. And I thank you for bringing it up again, because I totally support that.
Is there space down there for transient without a permanent spot at this time to put a boat?
For a transient boat.
For a commercial boat?
Can we talk about this tomorrow?
I was just gonna say, excuse me,
I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion.
excuse me, we're kind of venturing really off the agenda. If this gentleman wants to meet with Kate to discuss, I think it's great, but we're
Yeah,
kind of
I agree.
venturing off the agenda right in here.
Make a motion.
Or you said could ask a question.
Go ahead.
Kate, just a question, because I've heard the term fee and it does say in here permit fee, but it's actually a credit, right? So it's really, I mean, basically that $300 is going to be worked off of when they are ready and all their paperwork is. Is there a reason why we don't have a fee as a baseline? It's a question.
They never had a base fee. There's never been a base fee. I did increase the per foot,
Yeah.
I believe last year or the year before. But there's never been a base fee like there is with inland.
Is that something that we can look at in the future? Okay, it seems if you're paying a base fee and a per foot fee for moorings, why wouldn't you do that if you're a charter company on a slip? So this to me is just basically it's $300 that you're gonna work against whatever the running footage of the boat. And we could owe money or they owe us money, we'll see. But okay, thank you for that.
Make a motion to implement a base fee of $300 for charter and commercial permit holders for the first year of permit possession if a registered vehicle is not yet assigned to the slip permit. As outlined in the memo from the Harbors Committee on March 2022. Motion has been made and seconded by Sven. Favor, Keith? Martha? I'm in favor. Sven also and Mark. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7 is discuss and act on Boy Scouts of American Narragansett Council's request for a special temporary permit to allow for the placement of portable restroom facilities at the Boy Scout Camp Sandsland. Again, this is a request that comes to the council on a yearly basis. Comment wise, I'll make the motion and then have comment.
First, every year we have this and we always have a discussion as to whether we can ask or have a way the Boy Scouts can contribute to the island. And I'm just wondering, as they come and reserve their spots, or as they come to the island, if there's any way to have the ability to, whether it's planting beach grass or it's doing something of some cause, if that's something that we could do.
Troop 6 out of Barrington, they merged with another troop last year, but they have done that with permission of the first warden. To camp on the beach at Mansion Beach. It's a special day for their service that they do, and they're available. Actually, I have heard from them this year. They're all coming back. They don't come at the time that beach grass is.
It was an example of something for the public community.
I mean, they've done the fence, they did the fence downtown, they've done all kinds of things.
Chris Walpole, do you have a comment?
Yeah, if you're looking for things to do, actually, there's no shortage of, you're walking around the inner ponds of our farms leases. There is so much garbage that washes up, and I normally have a bag with me and I pick up quite a bit, but I remember when Governor Cheney came out, just before he came out, Wayne Monks from the state, various state departments came out and looked at their Great Salt Pond and said, oh, this is a dump. And it's just, part of it is because of the people that throw crap off their boats. Some of it is because of what washes in, but it's never in the process. And my recommendation is that if anyone needs anything to look for, is to go around, pick up all the bottles, plastics, flip flops that just wash up on sugar. It's amazing. I picked up flip flops today.
Thanks, Chris. I don't know if that can be done when it rains, but you know when they come. Make a motion to approve the request of the Narragansett Council of the Boy Scouts of America for a special temporary permit to allow the portable restaurant facilities on the Boy Scouts property, Camp Sandland, from July 5th, 2023 to October 15th, 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Mark?
2022.
No.
You have a problem with that? It's my fault.
What dates did you just say?
I'm trying not have to do this. I'm trying not have to do this next year.
Yeah, but the letter doesn't say, the letter is April to October.
Millie, sorry. This is between Millie and I, sorry. What are the dates?
22,
Clerk.
October 15th, 2022. No, April 15th, 2022 through October 15th, 2022.
Well, their letter said March 29th.
Andre, before we
No.
vote, I apologize if I'm out of order, but I'll always grab this opportunity. If they're listening in, the Boy Scout people, please come helmeted when you bring your bicycles. That includes not only scouts, but leaders.
That's part of their regulation.
Yep.
I asked them last year because you brought that up, Mark.
What are the dates?
According to the letter, April 15th. That's what it was,
2022.
yes, through October
2022.
correct.
Okay. Move to request the rest of the sorry, I messed that up, because then, gives everybody else the time to slide something in there on these poor kids. Okay. Move to request.
Oh, you've got crib notes.
I do, but they're a little messed up apparently.
Well, if you did your own work.
I want, move to approve the request of the Narragansett Council of the Boy Scouts of America for a special temporary permit to allow portable restroom facilities on Boy Scouts property, Camp Sandland, from April 15th, 2022 through October 15th, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Keith?
Yes.
Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor, and Sven?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is update and discuss future tax planning. I know Sven and Keith worked on this quite extensively and brought it to the council. I see Sven's got a lot of papers in front of him. You want to go?
Yep.
Okay.
First of all, thank you very much. On Clerk Base, and hopefully everybody has it. If you don't have it in the audience, I have extra copies here. But there are two documents. One is sort of a goals, proposals, background, and the other is a little bit of a chart showing the opportunities and concepts. The goal of this overall program is to modernize New Shoreham's property tax system to deliver fair and equitable distribution of the relative costs of providing services to residents and visitors, and to ensure a sustainable and thriving year-round community. Our proposal, and this is Marianne, Keith, myself, and Amy, we have been meeting per the request of the town council to come up with opportunities to look at the tax program. And our proposal was to work with the General Assembly and be able to enact different tax rates potentially on different land use types within New Shoreham. As we looked at this, and just for a little bit of background, currently the town of New Shoreham is able to have differentiated tax rates on commercial properties. We are technically able to do that. We're also technically able to have differentiated tax rate on homestead. And that is by Rhode Island general law. That would, of course, be through multiple town meetings, dialogue, a lot of debate and discussion around those two. But in an effort to create equitability, in an effort to really try and look at stress points and benefit points within different land use opportunities, we want to look at more tiers and more types. So as you can see from page 2, there are potential benefit properties. As everybody knows, the council, and I think Alicia and many others have been working on how do we try and promote year-round rentals? How do we try and promote homeowners that rent apartments year-round? Are there ways to use the tax levy on to create a benefit for those landowners who are either renting year-round or renting apartments and or homestead? On the other side, there are certain conditions that may add stress to the island. And when I think of stress, I think about congestion. I think about pressures on police, rescue, fire, medical, and I also think about seasonal influx. So are there opportunities in theory to look at houses that are rented 10 weeks of the year? Do they add a stress to the island? And should they be looked at as a different tax classification? So as a parameter, just so everybody knows, the greatest differential between tax tiers is 50%. So the lowest tier to the highest tier is not a huge gap, but it's a little bit of a gap, and it's a little bit of an opportunity. To be clear, Block Island is one tax rate. I mean, we use one tax rate for pretty much anything and everything. And so we have never created a differential tiering tax system. We have right now gone to the state legislature per the unanimous request of the town council and asked for flexibility in our tax rates so that we can start to have this discussion. It's not that anything's going to happen, assuming the Rhode Island General Assembly grants us that right, but we can start to have the discussion of, okay, what about, certain houses? What about potentially, I guess, commercial? What about homestead? What about these year-round rentals? Are there ways to differentiate a little bit and support those that are supporting the island, a la housing and year-round rentals? So as next steps, we did this resolution. Hopefully that will go through the legislature and will be granted this flexibility. Then we will have a lot of dialogue and public outreach. So over the next 6 to 9 months, we should start dialogue, debating, discussing work sessions around different tiers, around different potential tiers, and what that means to the island, and how to benefit the island in making this really more sustainable and year-round and healthier economy. And that's sort of the goal behind this. If it doesn't pass through the legislature and we are not granted that flexibility, then we still should have the discussion, because we could do a homestead or we could do commercial, but that's only a part of the game. Our hope is to be able to have a much more pervasive and thorough dialogue. So I wanted to say that Keith or Marianne or Amy are all here, they can add in. But I think the point of this session was really to get it out there. There have been some concerns of people when they saw us pass unanimously the request to the state. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody was open and transparent about this, because it's really, how do we help the island be more sustainable and healthier, and really work the system the best we can. Any questions? As long as it's nice.
Hold on, council first, if anyone has any at this time.
Yeah, Middletown is starting the process. Is it a good template for us?
Yep, and actually the state legislature, the request to have this flexibility is tied in with Middletown's request. South Kingston is also tied into it. So there are a number of towns. To give you an idea, over half the towns in Rhode Island have this form of flexibility. We don't. And so all we're trying to do is be on the good side of the half, right? But that's the goal of this. Thanks, Mark.
If so many towns already have this, why do we need permission from the state?
Because it's Rhode Island general law that the only things that towns are permitted to do are this homestead or commercial. Now, half the towns have gone and been exempted. There's a number of cities, for example, Providence and a few cities that have a lot of exemptions. There are other towns that have gained flexibility through past legislative requests.
So you have to request.
Yep. Yep. Unfortunately.
Chris Waffle, did you have a comment?
It's a question actually on the process of homestead. I'm really not familiar with how that option is in there. Is homesteading, homestead option like home rule right to do certain things versus commercial? Could you just help educate me on what homestead option is?
Amy, do you want to jump in for a second, or Marianne? Or Amy, go if you don't mind. Yeah. Only reason is just, yeah.
Sure. It has much more to do with residency and self-occupying your home than sort of the different uses that might happen there. It's generally appropriate only for a residential property.
Yes.
And usually you're attesting to that being your primary residence, that you don't have an exemption in another community, things like that. So I don't want to say it's identical to residential and occupying your home, but that's generally the feeling that you're going for when you design a homestead exemption program.
So you get a reduced.
Yep. So it's an exemption either from the assessed value, which effectively lowers your bill, or it can be an exemption in the tax bill itself, and you can structure it both ways. But the net effect is, in theory, to make it more affordable for those people to live in their communities.
And for all of these, we need to go through the ordinance process, right? So we need to make sure there are public hearings, we need to make sure there's public discussion, we need to have appropriate votes, et cetera. So none of this can happen today, but there is a process for it. And Kim, just remember that homestead versus the higher tier is 50%. So, but it helps. I mean, every little bit helps for those that are here year round. And that, yeah, I don't want to forecast, but whatever happens to the state legislature, I hope we're granted this flexibility. I'd be very upset and disappointed if we aren't. But we'll see what happens. And even if we aren't, then maybe we'll have discussion around homestead.
And try again next year.
And try, yes, and try again next year.
Chris?
Would I be able to talk to you after that would be a time about some questions I have on this?
No, you can never talk to me ever. Of course. No, we should definitely talk about it because we would love any input, all four of us or myself specifically. But I am trying to drive this one pretty hard. Thank you.
Chris, I think the objective is to get the broad enabling legislation from the state and then to do the specifics here. And this is where, this has come up before and it always falls apart in the details because it's tried to be too front-loaded, too heavily detailed. It's like, yeah, thank you.
I'll note that we did receive a letter this afternoon. It's not up on Clerk Base, but yet from Lars Trotson, the director of the Chamber of Commerce. I don't see him here tonight. So it basically says, thank you first for providing some background materials on the current discussions on the town's tax classification plan. It provides needed context to this important topic, and it will be interesting to hear more on the matter tonight. Before any further action is taken on the item, however, I would like to recommend to the council that it schedule a work session on this topic for a more robust, focused discussion. Tax issues affect everyone, and it is therefore an area that should be presented more fully to the public with public input in return. Thank you for consideration of this matter. Lars Trotson, Executive Director of the Block Island Chamber of Commerce.
If I can, and I did have a lengthy discussion with Lars the other day, and we definitely will have public outreach, public comments, dialogue, work sessions, et cetera. You know, there's always that cart or horse thing, right? So we can have a whole lot of debate on homestead, year-round rent apartment to light commercial to see, you know, a lot of rentals of your house. But unless we can actually affect that, why debate it? So our hope is that this will go through the state legislature, that actually the chamber will support this, and that we can then have a really good discussion, as you know, Chris started asking questions about all these tiers and all these types, and how do we make it a healthy dialogue? So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Sven. I just, wrap it up. I just think that this is the first step. As Sven said, if the legislation doesn't pass, then we're back to square one. But we can't move forward if we don't want to try different and new things. And I think this is definitely suits the bill on that. There's no action on that item. Does anybody have any more comment on it? I don't think so. Item number 9. Discuss and request survey research studies to be conducted by staff concerning 1 year-round and year-round affordable attainable housing units. Private property owner research regarding year-round and year-round affordable attainable housing development. I believe this was also, I thought this was already underway, but I guess we're gonna have staff do it. I don't know who wants to. Mary Ann, you want to take the lead
Run
on
with
that?
this. So so staff at the town plan, specifically town planner and Jen Brady land use and zoning official will be the two that are working on this. It's a 2-pronged attempt. One is a survey and one is a direct mailing. The survey is to take some of the data we received based on the survey done by the affordable attainable housing group and dive deeper into a little bit or quantify it a little more specifically. We did hear that there are about 160 people that are looking for the housing. So we're trying to quantify how many actual homes are necessary. So that's what's going to be part of the survey, and also some of the costs associated, what they're looking for rental, what they'll pay for rental and stuff like that. I know some of that information was also surveyed originally, but we're just trying to quantify it so we can move forward with it. The second one, what we have heard is the 513s, property owners that could possibly have a 513 on their property. It seems to have dropped off or has stabilized where we haven't seen an increase. So what we're doing is a direct mailing to folks, homeowners, and say, basically giving them some information. Are you familiar with the 513? Would you like to discuss it further? You'll reach out to Jen Brady. She's very knowledgeable and really knows a lot about these and is looking to coordinate possibly if there's a group of folks that now want to explore 513s on their properties and find ways that could be bundle purchasing of supplies or materials or what they may need to do that. So those 2 staff people have volunteered to work on this and run with it. They've been involved with this in a number of years. So I look forward to seeing what information comes back once they have the opportunity to get this information out and also provide the data and research information once they have it.
I'll make a motion to approve to direct the town manager to have survey research studies conducted regarding 1, year-round and year-round affordable attainable housing needs, and 2, private property owner concerns and opportunities regarding year-round and year-round affordable attainable housing development.
I'll second your question.
We can do that once the motion's made. Seconded by Sven. Discussion? Social?
Just a word of caution, the word affordable means different things to different people, depending on who you talk to, so that in the survey, that you write something like deed restricted affordable housing. You know what I'm saying? That you spell that out, because everybody wants to live in an affordable structure, but we're talking deed restricted, if I'm correct, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, so you need to spell that out.
Actually, if I can jump in, I just shouldn't have said yes. I meant yes, we hear you. I think it's a great question as to what restrictions or no restrictions. I mean, I think right now 513 says it has to be a year-round resident. There aren't necessarily, and some stipulations around it. One question gets to be about affordability. One question gets to be, there are a lot of questions that could come into it. So to your point, I think it's got to be a survey that's pretty well crafted.
513, deed restricted and not deed restricted, and I don't think everyone's aware of it.
Yep.
Difference.
Yep.
So the question should be clear.
Yeah, I think the two staff people we have working on this being
They know it.
Jen Brady and Allison, if anyone has a clear understanding of the 513 and the zoning implications, it's the two of those folks.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Social. Chris Warfel?
I want to know if you, as a town, would be opposed to other people looking at the survey before it goes out, just to make sure there's questions that are clear, to have other people look at it. The problem with surveys, and we ran into this, is that those who develop it think they're communicating everything that you could possibly think of clearly, and then someone just throws out a different perspective, and you're like, that's right, we missed it, I missed that. And so I'm wondering if you would be willing to have other eyes look at the survey questions just for comment, for your consideration before you issue it, because you don't like running these surveys.
Well, we talked, didn't we talk about this at the last meeting when Allison and Jen were there?
Right.
I mean, we've already talked about this. I'm not sure why
But
we.
We had some very big conversation on it.
Yeah, yeah. You were doing something else.
No doubt.
No, they were right there. They were talking about sending a letter out.
I know where they were.
Thank
you.
I guess I'm a visual person in my memory. I understand what you're saying, Chris, because I know one of the things you're talking about was the same thing that I saw. But we've got, like Mary Ann said, we've got people who have been working on it, and Jen in particular, for so long. And Allison does have a fresher view. You can bog this down forever. And I appreciate what you're saying. I would hand it to them and say this is a concern, and if they want to ask people to look at it, I don't know. I just hate making these things specific and then saying, oh, wait a minute, we have to have 16 people look at it. And that's really hard to get something done.
You can get time bounded on the comment period. And also, I had looked at previous town surveys and the compilation of surveys, and quite frankly, some of it was unintelligible. And I tried and I asked questions and nobody could explain the survey results. So I understand not wanting to get bogged down, but I don't think if you gave somebody a week to throw out some concerns or observations, it's gonna really muck up the process. My worry is that if you put out a survey that's not clear, that does more harm than if you waited 1 week just to take into consideration people's comments. You're not gonna make anything perfect, but just several other eyes would help people get too used to their own writing, see somebody else's perspective. That's the truth.
I know that.
So I'm asking for that consideration. That's what I'm asking.
I'm gonna stick with the original motion that I had, but I will ask that the town work with the affordable housing initiative. I think we're all in this together. I think if they have suggestions for a survey, in my opinion, they can be looked at. Not necessarily being incorporated, but I think in the spirit of working together, I don't think it's a bad idea. If you could do that.
I have no problem with
Yeah.
it, but I agree with Mark, we want.
Right, I want to keep it going. I understand. So just, those are my thoughts on that. Anybody else have any comments?
I have a couple. One is, I don't have a clear picture of the timeline here. What are we talking about? And are we sending letters to property owners and then waiting for property owners to send us letters back? What does this look like?
So Allison and Jen haven't outlined the specific timeline at this point. I think based on our discussions of what they're having, they want to get this done sooner than later. So I think the survey will be done in the next couple of weeks and we'll then get it out. And also the two will go on the 2 prongs, and the letters also will go out probably within the next couple of weeks also. The letters are specifically sent to homeowners, more of an awareness and also to educate people about the 513s and also to bring them back, and they're available. Jen is going to include in the letter that they can reach back out to Jen and ask her questions and meet with her and discuss the 513s.
See, one of the things that I think might be worthwhile if we're asking about 513s, and that's why I had requested before we decided to do these surveys, these 2 items under number 10, is to get a picture of what some of the changes might be to accessory buildings to see whether they enhance the attractiveness of the program. So I'm a little bit uncertain about I get quantifying. I mean, I think we've all advocated for quantifying, but I'm not sure how we're sort of moving the cart down the road here.
If you prefer to wait on the 513s, we're open.
It's not that I prefer to wait, it's that I prefer to work on something that actually is not either recreating the wheel or getting answers that we already anticipate. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that, and if you talk to realtors about this, as I have, that there is not a lot of awareness as real estate turns over about the 513 program. There's also, I think we've heard some issue with 513s in terms of capital costs, which is, one of the things that I outlined. So it's sort of like, do we want to be approaching homeowners about the 513 program as it is, or here are some of the things we're thinking about doing with 513. Would any of these make it more attractive to you? Or, for example, it seems to me that the senior advisory committee, it would be worth having them reach out to a lot of the people that they touch base with about what would make it easier or less costly for them to do accessory apartments within their existing in their existing homes for care. There's all sorts of variations on this, and I'm concerned that we're asking about a program that we all understand we're going to be wanting to modernize, regardless of which section of the zoning ordinance we do it under.
So I agree with Keith, actually, that we need to modernize. I look forward to talking about a couple of things. I think one of the things that having been through the 513 a lot, and I know many of us have, I don't know whether a footprint is a problem or percent lot coverage has become a problem for some. I know it has for actually a few. And that's suddenly a 513 if you're suddenly now that's excluded from lot coverage, for example. So I think financial, there's clearly some opportunities. I think there are some technical things that may allow people to do some 513s that they right now aren't doing. So to your point, and I think this is part of this, is not only about awareness, but starting to probe on some of those, I'll call them impediments, to why people aren't people aren't doing 513s.
But
Okay, but that's not what we heard.
Right.
You know, what we heard is that we're gonna do outreach to to who? People who already have 513s, every property owner.
no,
on
every
the island?
property owner, but
And what are we gonna be asking, you know, what are we doing?
I think I'm gonna flip on this a little bit. I think we got another agenda item below this, that we weren't aware that this agenda item was coming up when we had this initial discussion. I think. I know, but I'm getting into the detail of it. So I think where I'm going with this is, I think I'm agreeing with you that we are exploring ways to, I don't want to say improve, but to change the 513s and also offer opportunities that may enhance, based on what you had before us, enhance folks to participate in the 513 program, we'll now call it. And if we're looking to do that, sending a survey out now without this information, if we're going to enhance or change or do whatever, it may be premature.
Look, I'm perfectly happy to do a survey. I'd like to do it once with a sense of what, you know, some policy ideas around it. That's why I asked for, because a survey may be the necessary outcome of the conversation we're going to have on the next agenda item. And those are only two ideas, you know, I mean, there are undoubtedly others, you know, like, lot coverage, ownership of 513, somebody's been advocating for, you know, like these are, you know, I'd like to know, for example, whether someone could sell a 513. I'm not sure I'm an advocate of that, but that might make a construction loan possible on a small footprint 513. I don't know, but there's a whole bunch of really potentially cool and innovative ideas. But we should, I mean, I totally agree with you and Sven and Allison and Jen that we shouldn't spend a lot of time on things that will not move the needle in terms of people's interest in 513s, just because they happen, you know, we happen to have had coffee at the Crack Mug and said, maybe this will work.
But I think some of the enhancements, some of the things we're talking on the next agenda item may change people's mind about the 513. So I still think we should move forward with the survey about quantifying the number of homes. I think that's huge. I think that's huge. I think the 513 piece, maybe we should take a step back and decide where we see these 513s going and then go from there.
Okay,
And I also think where they are right now, in addition to where they're going, where they are now, I think is a helpful.
That's a
So, I
good
mean,
point,
again, this is one of those conversations where they can just go on and on and on, and the focus needs to be there. With 513s comes up a lot, and I don't think I'm any more educated on them right now than I was the first day it came up, because it's a rabbit hole. And I think the survey is a start. It's a good start. There's a motion on the floor about surveys. Is it about surveys or is it about the
I
next?
just want some clarification regarding the first survey about quantifying. How is the town doing that?
I'm sorry, what's,
Yeah,
can you repeat the question? Hold on.
I had a question a while ago.
Oh, you didn't raise your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ken.
How am I supposed to know you have a question if you don't raise your hand? Go ahead, Alicia.
I'm just questioning how the town is gonna quantify the need for housing. How are we getting those surveys out? Who are we sending them to? Putting on the bulletin board? Are you putting them in the mail? Some people are on PO boxes. How are you gonna reach people? That's my question. What the plan
I
is.
think all the above, like I think,
If you're trying to, may I?
oh my God.
If we're trying to reach homeowners, we've got all the homeowner information. Now, that's where I'm going. I think we all presume people know more than they know. and people pay attention more than they pay attention. And the people who come here for a few months in the summer with their dream house are any more involved, they just aren't aware. And I thought that what Jen and Allison were talking about was sort of a first salvo. Be aware that these programs exist. And I didn't think it was going to be in the great detail, which is where everything does get bogged down. Because you're not going to solve it all with one letter out. But it was only just to be sure people knew what the rules were, that the program exists, that looking at changing the program maybe, but not terribly complicated. Maybe I misunderstood.
No, my question.
Hold on, can I go?
You can, but there's a motion on the floor that I'd like to get a vote on, so.
Oh,
But go ahead.
okay. So on the needs assessment, I don't believe that's been worked through as to who, how, what vehicles, all that. The whole point of this was really green lighting it and making sure that there was a public discussion about it. I think now, if I can speak, Alice, that's the work for the next week. And talking to you guys a little bit and learning what didn't go well or what did go well. And, so I think that there's a lot of experience that Allison has in this, and that'll be brought forward. I don't think anybody's worked through all those details until actually the green light's been given.
So
On the needs assessment.
I don't think
Needs.
what Martha said is, I agree with what Martha said, but I think those are two different things, because what we have on the agenda is something that says survey about 513s as opposed to sort of a notice to property owners about the availability of the program, et cetera. At least that's, owner research around 513s. I think the idea of and I remember Rosemary Tobin actually offering this. I think the idea of a letter to property owners is a great thing. I also think, creating materials around this stuff when we, finally arrive at what it is, so that when people close on houses, for example, they get a packet. And we provide homeowners with packets about this stuff. I think makes an incredible amount of sense. I think the idea of having an additional quick turnaround survey, quantifying, so that we have the housing boards from whatever 2 years ago, we have the one that Chris and Alicia and a bunch of other people worked on. So we have theirs, we have something from Allison and Janet. That's great. I think the more data we have, the better. I don't want to, part of the reason I asked for the agenda item I did is I'm with you, Andre. I mean, we've talked a lot. Can we sort of try to throw some meat on the bones? Even here's an idea and everybody says it's lousy, that's fine. That's just as helpful as that's a really good idea. Let's
Can't have nice things if we don't try new things.
So,
Motion's been made, there's a motion on the floor, it's been seconded. Do you want me to read the motion? Have we forgotten the motion?
No, but I'm wondering, given the discussion, first of all, just discuss a request. So I think it's really just asking the town manager or directing the town manager versus a motion. Either way, what I'm hearing is, number one, there's a lot of support for, let's do a quick study, figure out the needs, reinforce what we learned. And then on the second one, hold back a little bit. Let's listen, learn, think through it, and then figure out what people said. So I'm not sure that there's alignment on A and B.
I've made the motion. You want me to withdraw my motion? Then you want to make a new motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second. Do you want to make it real quick?
It's your motion.
I make a motion to ask the staff to complete a year-round assessment of affordable attainable housing needs, which is number one. Is there a second?
Second.
Well, it's basically both of them.
And so you're just gonna include number one?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion is made to second. All those in favor, Keith?
Yes.
Martha?
Aye.
I'm not in favor. I think we should move forward with the other one on recommendation from our staff. That's fine. This motion will carry. Mark?
Aye.
And Sven?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and act on the affordable housing items. Keith, thank you so much for bringing this forward to us. Oh, second one.
So,
Well, you broke it.
I was.
I didn't know you wanted to break it up into two motions.
Based on the second.
My motion included both. So you just made a motion to include one. Do you now want to include the other?
No, I didn't think number two would pass, so I was trying to get one done.
Okay.
So
But that changed-
we'll just delay on two.
That changes the way I would have voted on one, if they were both included. I think both I think they should both be included in having the town manager move forward. That's it. I'm sorry about this confusion, but,
That might have been my fault. I'm sorry, Andre.
do you guys want to take a vote on one,
I don't.
on two?
I actually think that we should do, I think a survey and research is really valuable, but I think we should have some meat on the bones to see whether there are some 513 ideas that move property owners. And frankly, have an open-ended thing like, what's like in your world, what would
So
make
you're
this
happy with
attractive?
just number one?
Yes.
Okay.
I second that.
I would think, fine, okay. So we're set on that thing. We're just gonna table the private property owner concerns and opportunities for the year-round affordable housing development.
And we may do it down the road sometime.
Tomorrow, who knows?
Immediately. Or about 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Item number 10 is discuss and act on the affordable housing items. Keith,
Goodness.
Keith, you brought this to us.
Sure.
I had a chance to read it. Thank you for bringing this.
Thank you.
I think we've had a lot of discussion on it already.
Yeah, and you know, look, I
Do you wanna go through it?
So, I wanna be so careful not to act like these are, you know, my ideas, because there's a lot of conversation going on around these and, you know, there's no pride of authorship on it. I put number one, there for a reason, because I think we've all sort of, recognized that project, Ball O'Brien, I guess, I think we're calling it, the potential rental project, is outside of the the experience of the housing board. They haven't done a large scale rental project like that. And Andre, when you and I and Mary Ann spoke with Secretary Stahl, one of the things that I know you and I came away with was that he was very open to the idea of funding grants for pilots. And it struck me, and I know I've mentioned Marian and I have talked about it as well, that perhaps we should approach Secretary Stahl about funding a project manager for that project. And by the way, maybe Marianne for Thomas. I mean, you know, just someone who's going to honcho those projects so that it's, you know, it's not one of 50 things that you have on your list. And, you know, the housing board, I don't think it's fair to expect them to be able to figure out all of the underlying financial implications, the capital needs, the phasing, the staging of a large scale rental project like that. So I don't know that we need anything but sort of consent among us that you know, Marianne and you, Andre, could approach Secretary Stahl about a grant for project management on this stuff. The second thing is what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, which is figuring out ways to incentivize the 513 program. By the way, you know, someone kicked me under the table. I don't know whether we should even be calling this 513. It may be different enough that it's, I mean, Sven uses the term 513 plus, you know, whatever we want to call it, we can call it George. My thought was, one of the things that I've heard, just anecdotally, is that it's one of the real barriers is capital cost. And when you think about how much money we would spend for each unit of affordable, attainable housing, if we were to do a grant program of up to $100,000, say, for each of these projects, and we, let's say we did $1 million, okay, we did $1 million bond, and there were grants available up to $100,000, and we did 10 $100,000 grants. For $1 million, we would have 10 new affordable rentals, and that's pretty cost effective. You know, and it is, to me, we talk a lot about public-private partnerships. That is an interesting approach. I don't know whether $100,000 is the right number. I came up with it, first of all, because it's round, and also because I think $100,000 gets you a foundation for a, you know, 1,000 square foot house, you know, the septic, the utilities, those sorts of things. You know, maybe it's just a foundation, but it's something that gets you into the ground on a project. And again, I mean, I think there's value in talking to construction people about, you know, what's the most efficient way to put up a 1,000 square foot building or 1,200 square foot building. I don't know the answer to that. I think in order to really do it, you have to do deed restrictions on affordability. I think there should be higher grant amounts based upon how you're going to do your 513. Is it sort of HUD affordable, or is it you know, market rate year round? To me, there might, you might have a difference in the size of the grant. I think you might do some financial modeling for the owner. For example, as we're discussing the caretaker type apartments, there might be more of a grant for someone who is very low income, but very high need. And then I think you know, I've worked on a lot of these things over, not on housing, but on others. I think we should have a clawback provision. So in other words, if you agree to take $100,000 grant to provide a year-round affordable 513, and then you either take out the kitchen and decide you don't want it anymore, or you sell your property and the property owner, I think there should be a clawback of the grant amount. Perhaps that's a sliding scale over time. But if we're putting up public money for this, for what we deem a public good, I think we have a responsibility to claw back grant amounts that we've given and aren't being used as they were intended. The other idea that I've had is this idea of I've been calling it a community anchor lot. This is less on the sort of traditional affordable housing scale, but more on the 1 or 2 income families who on the mainland would have no problem at all buying a house. But because of our land costs, there's literally no way there, you know, except for, you know, by the grace of God, someone gives them a piece of land. It's just not going to happen for them. And, you know, we all know there are countless examples in town of family or friends or other relations who have given land or given a house. You know, that sort of has been a traditional way. You know, I've talked about this, and I worry that that's going away in this kind of a market where, if the amount you could sell your house for didn't really move the needle in terms of your financial well-being, maybe that was more on the table than all of a sudden there's money beyond which you had ever imagined available in the sale of your house. So anyway, the way that this program, as I envisioned it would work, is you would maybe even put together, Allison Ring, Jen, put together a group to look at all of the town-owned lots. I know we know a number of them. We own a number of them. And identify 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, whatever the number is, and make them available to people who are pre-qualified for construction loans. So you no longer have the $800,000 an acre land as a barrier to owning a house. Now, and it could be a 99-year lease. I'm not sure what the exact legal underpinning would be, but you would have to come pre-qualified. I also, by the way, we have architects on the island. We could theoretically put together, and designers, we could put together packages for people, because I know, having built a house 40 years ago, the most intimidating thing about it was sort of getting all the stuff to get together, finding an architect, but if we could get on a pro bono basis, 3 pleasing designs that people could choose from theoretically, that would really get people out of the ground. I actually talked with Barbara McMullen at Washington Trust. She said that Washington Trust would be very pleased to have a pre-qualification program for something like this, where an individual or a family could go to Washington Trust and sort of get counseled and pre-approved. So, that would be kind of one of the requirements is you got to come sort of, as President Obama said, sort of shovel ready on this. It's the idea is you're ready to go. And I view this as, one of the things that I think about when I was thinking about this program, Marianne, is what you were saying about all of the teachers we're going to have to replace. This could be a thing where, if you have 2 teachers on the mainland, you can have, there's
A house.
but you can have a house. If you have 2 teachers here, you can have a house. So it might make it an even more, a more attractive place to come and be a police chief, or be 2 teachers, or be two cops, or whatever. I have done absolutely no research on on sort of the underpinnings of this, because why should I be burdened by the facts when my own opinion will do? But I did want to raise it because it may be something that we want to explore as a possibility. One of the other things, by the way, that we could do here is, theoretically, you could do something like this for developers if they came with a family, along the lines of having a package. If I don't know, John Spear came with a family and said, "I'm going to build these guys a house," and I got them pre-qualified. I'm going to just do everything as a package for X number of dollars, and they're going to have an affordable house. That's also a possibility. Anyway, sorry to prattle on, but I'm sort of like you, Andre. I just wanted to get some real potential things kind of on the table as we have this conversation. So thank you.
What are you looking for as an action?
I think I would like to get a sense from the council of whether these ideas are 2 among some that are kind of worth pursuing, whether there are other incentives or enhancements to the 513 program. Sven mentioned one, which is lot coverage size. I think there are a lot of potential ones. I think you guys when you're been looking through zoning, you've thought of them too. I almost think it would be worthwhile, perhaps I don't know whether it's like a working group who works on this or something like that, to just come up with, a list of 10 things that you could do with 513, hang some meat on the bones and have another conversation in early May, say, around these ideas. On community anchor lot, there's more research you have to do there around, what we own, how non-conforming are the non-conforming lots, those sorts of things. I think we have to figure out like gifting and how that would work. Is it, does that create a tax implication for the future homeowner? Should we do it a 99-year ground lease? There are a lot of questions like that we'd have to answer. But I think for at least a handful of people, that might be a pathway that we ought to look at. And I just, if they're crazy ideas, I'm okay, but they just seem like a couple of things that we might actually do some more work on, and I'd be happy to do it.
The one thing that you didn't have on your list is increased density, smaller lot size, but very specific to a project, a house. That's one of the things that I know has been was a difficulty in the past. It was all about, well, you're increasing density, and that seemed to be this, I wish I still had the letter.
No, that's a really good
And
point.
you may be able to, if you can carve a lot out, because, we know you don't need 3 acres for a house. We know that.
Mhm.
And lots of things have changed. Science has changed, especially since those concerns were so great.
That's a great point.
A lot of land has been conserved that wasn't back then. And, maybe somebody be willing to carve out a corner of their lot if they were able. And it could be, you don't get a whole lot of money for it, but you get something. And somebody can build.
I think that's I think one of the things I hadn't quite thought through is the possibility that larger landowners might take the opportunity to split off a 1/4 acre to do an affordable, like one of these anchor lot type things where someone comes in, they have some sense of what the design's going to be. Who knows, maybe we even give them a tax advantage for it, but I think we all probably know families that would at least consider doing something like that.
Well, we need more Ellen Jackies because there's someone who actually did it.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that was going to snowball, and sadly it hasn't.
Right.
Chris Waffle?
But that was still within the pretty narrow parameters. I'm talking about really just throwing those out.
What I'm hearing is basically two situations. What Keith mostly is talking about, in my opinion, is organizational changes to increase 513. And what we've been working on is really, I think, more the nuts and bolts of the existing 513 and how to make that better. And why we didn't want to go with a new ordinance is the supposition that working within an existing ordinance would take less time. So what we have been proposing to do is to present to you a request for, a process to change 513. And through that process, the things that you have discussed and the community has discussed can be aired out in public discussion. But we have to start somewhere. And so our goal was to put some things out with some meat on the bones, but not necessarily, create a funding program, because to me, that's outside the ordinance. That's something that's different than section 513. So our focus primarily right now is addressing the mechanics, the nuts and bolts of 513. I think Keith is talking about some of that. He's also talking about organizational changes that would make AEH through 513 better, but I don't want to mix the two together. What we're proposing to do is to present to you our ideas with principles and goals as an addendum to our proposal to amend the ordinance, and then just through the public process, see what the community and you feel, can go to a public hearing. I think if we do it any other way, it's going to take a year at least to get some ideas out there. So I'm just trying to give you a heads up. That's the approach that we're taking.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Chris. Social.
I want to remind you, like when Martha's comment up, and Jen Brady spoke up about, she didn't speak about the survey. She wanted to rule out the assumption that people are not taking advantage of 513 because they don't like it versus are they not taking advantage of 513 because they don't know about it. I honestly feel that is still a first step, which is education. Are we informing our homeowners of 405, 513, all these options? I bet you they don't know. That's my guess.
I certainly appreciate that. Sven, one more. I mean, this could be a work session. I kind of want to.
Actually, that's what I was gonna say. I think,
Yeah.
Keith mentioned about a work team. I think a work session on this is a big idea. I do think that the number one piece, or his number one, I have not talked to the housing board about this. I can't believe they wouldn't 100% support it. I think trying to get a project manager, trying to get help to the housing board on working what I think is called Ball O'Brien, or, this rental project, I think it's a huge idea. So I don't want to lose momentum on that idea. Then the rest of it, I think we'll talk through the work session about plus and minuses of all these. Plus, I know, Martha, to your point, Jen's been talking about this. How do you carve out a quarter acre or something? I think those are big ideas. And I do think they are real step changes that will deliver a result. So I just don't want to lose number one, because I think, which for everybody in the audience is reduce stress on volunteers by seeking grant funding for a project manager for the rental development on Ball O'Brien or the west side. I just think we should do that tomorrow, or, pursue that czar. I can't remember his name, but that guy.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
That's great. And I think this is just I just see this as a list of community ideas that have been thrown out that Keith just put together. I think it'll be a good reference point in the future. Absolutely. I think this will lead to multiple work sessions, not just one, but that's where that's where I am on that. I just moving on.
Well, I guess my request would be, can you or Keith, you guys met with the czar, can that be something we talked about?
Oh, the grant. Oh, let me go back to that grant thing.
Point number one.
Yeah. I got it. No, I have it in front of me.
Yeah.
It's we can look for apps. I mean, I certainly favor funding for something like that. I mean, going to him for grants, do you think he's the guy to go to? Yeah. There was grants that were just issued on housing. I think I sent it to both you
Those were
and Chris,
different.
but that wasn't.
Those were different. This is, what he
look
had told us
shovel ready.
specifically is because we're trying to find something that would fit Block Island. And he said, we'd be happy to pilot. We have some kind of pilot program going. And when the latest discussion around what we were thinking about doing on what we're calling the Ball O'Brien, originally it was going to be homes. Now we're looking at homes and rentals and possibly employee housing. So that's how I see the pilot, is because we have 3 different types of a home environment we would like to use for that property. I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
We can call Rick tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. I just think that's one we can get now. Or lose it.
And on that topic, I think we could, I mean, I don't know if you're all gonna come up on the 12th, but we could try to schedule meetings with the czar. The 12th to testify in the housing bill. I mean, while we're there, I mean, I hate going up there, and I mean, we could certainly, while we're in the building, we look to see who whoever we can talk to. All right, we'll put that on the list.
And then you want to make this a work session?
What?
2, 3 small lots.
Well, yeah, we can certainly, we don't need to schedule a work session now, do we? Yeah, yeah, all right. All right, we're all good on the discussion? We're all good on the topic?
So I want to be clear, you mentioned work session, is that a yes or no?
Yes.
Can we schedule it or can we take the time now? The table and Molly and I will take up. What exactly?
Listen, the summer's coming, throw the dates out there. We're all gonna start getting busier and busier.
I think it would be worth.
Just throw the dates out there.
What's your timeline of working on your changes? It's ready to be submitted. So we're not burdened in scheduling this by waiting for some ideas. No, well, we figured that the ideas would become more apparent through the process, and then we could come up with a little note, right, to be thrown out or taken for it.
Good. We stay, we're waiting for an answer on work session
Work
dates?
session. Give me time, take August, June, September,
May.
May.
Do we have a work session topic in May right now?
I don't have that.
Okay, let's look toward May. Let's look as soon as possible. I think let's, after the financial town meeting, before the summer starts.
We'll do it in the May work session, for the sake of that, we don't have, if there's something else we can talk with your costs. And the project manager, where you folks with that, and if there's some discussion.
We'll talk to Rick. We'll see about grant money for that.
So I think everybody's in support of getting that. Right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if that's, all right, we'll move on. We good? Number 11?
Thank you.
Number 11 on the agenda is discuss and act on the recommendation from the town manager regarding the awarding of contracts for brush cutting, chipping, cleaning town buildings, cleaning seasonal buildings, fuel oil, diesel, mowing Island Cemetery, and mowing town properties. Mary Ann did send us a memo on this. I trust you've all seen and read it. Mary Ann, is there anything you want to add to the discussion?
Nope, the memo speaks for itself. We went out to bid and these are the
Thank
bids
you.
we received. Most of these folks have worked for the town before, so I would recommend just approving the bids as submitted.
I will note that one bid was received for, well, only 2 bids were received for one of these items. I think that's important to note. I will make a motion to approve the recommendation for the town manager regarding the following services: brush cutting and chipping to Kennelly Land Improvement, cleaning town buildings to Eden Smith, cleaning seasonal buildings to M&D Cleaning Services, fuel oil and diesel oil to Ballard's Oil, mowing Island Cemetery to Block Island Lawn Service, and mowing town properties to Hall's Mowing Service. That's my motion.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Sven? I'm in favor. Martha? Keith? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 12 is discuss and act on the ranking of the properties between the Harbors Facility and Public Safety Facility as relates to federal appropriation funding. Mary, I'll let you take the lead on this.
Yes, so I think you folks remember we met with Rick and he chatted about these federal appropriation or what we call correctional direct appropriations funds. And I'm in the process of putting together some applications. Originally, I thought I'd be submitting one for the fire rescue facility and also for the harbor facilities. Based on what is needed in the application and the information that they are requesting, I thought it would be best to wait for harbors. Harbors, we are not looking to do any construction on that facility. I think we have it in the long-term capital is 2025. So at this point, there's no need to rank them because it will be just the fire and rescue facility. Just for informational purpose, and if the town needs to authorize me to do this, I will be applying for direct congressional appropriations with Senator Reed, also with Senator Whitehouse, and I was just contacted with Representative Langevin office that they also have applications out there. Theirs are due like a week to 10 days after the other 2. So at this point, it looks like I will be applying for all 3. Worked with the fire department all week, most of the weekend with Mike and Kurt. They were great. We got a lot of the wordsmithing done, and Rick has reviewed it this morning, so we're going to finalize that because the Senator Reed and the Senator Whitehouse is due this Friday. One's due Friday by 5, the other one's due Friday by 6. And all three, we will be applying for $3.5 million for the fire and rescue facility. And Andre's working on a letter of support for the council, and also the fire department has also given me a letter of support. Interesting, White House is not looking for letters of support, which is interesting. These are the little nuances that you get with these. So I'm encouraged. I mean, I did this in another life where I did manage to get some funding on 2 different occasions. So we do get funding. So.
Quick question, is that 3.5 total or 3.5 per project, or we'll see as much we can get?
We are applying for $3.5 million for the fire and rescue facility.
One project.
One project. Yes.
And are we gonna, I just wanna make sure I heard it. So we're going out for all 3 or only out for?
We will reach out. We would submit an application for both the senators and for Representative Benjamin.
Thank you.
So there's 3
The
applications.
answer is 3, but
Yeah.
one.
Each room pretty similar, and then there's a little nuance in all of them.
Marianne, what's the usual timetable for the hopeful good news?
So this is all for the next fiscal year for the federal government. Keep in mind their fiscal year starts October 1st. There was a slight delay. They just started this again last year. This is something they did a number of years ago, and then it stopped. And they just started up again. And I think folks heard probably around the first of the year or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the exact date, but it will be relatively quick, less than a year's time.
Yeah. It's all on you.
Thanks.
Well, that's a question I was gonna have. Without funding for, with the grant writer leaving and the grant writer not being funded again, where will the grant writing be?
We continue the funding of the grant writer. These applications,
No, I
they're
know,
not
I
that
just-
crazy.
But in the original budget, we didn't have a grant writer. Now we got it back in.
It was in there, right? It was there, yeah.
Oh, it was,
I
but
thought
we
you
just don't
had me-
have one. The job's not there. We don't have one.
We don't have one.
Okay. So that's falling on you right now?
It's not that, yes,
Okay, I know, I'm just asking.
we got it. I think after this weekend, we got it.
Great, thank you. No action on this item? Just an update.
Okay, I haven't looked at the third application.
I don't-
Just, authorize me to see with the application. It's a great application.
Thank you.
We need a motion for that? That's the agenda item is the ranking, so we don't need to
Yeah.
rank. So I
You don't
think
need to
there's-
rank, no.
I don't think there's anything to do here, right?
Nope.
Okay. Item number 13, discuss and act on the broadband project change orders. A, Mission Broadband Change Order number 4, work to be performed on island-wide broadband network project, Community Anchor Institution, and consulting reburial project as pertains to broadband fiber, $500 at $200 an hour. B, Certex Change Order number 7, costs associated with erosion control at DEM and CRMC permitted sites, $74,902.50 to DEM and $56,115 to CRMC for a grand total of $131,017.50. Jesus. Mary Ann, you want to elaborate?
Yes, so one of the things was when they went through the process of with Certex and started some of the work, they didn't realize that we'd have to go through the permitting process for both CRMC and DEM. The good news is, you all know, we managed to get those blanket permits. However, include those blanket permits with some kind of specific requirements such as erosion control and things of that nature. They weren't scoped out. They weren't included in the scope that was presented when we then went out to bid. So it is a change order to the tune of $131,017.50. So we're looking for approval for that this evening, and that's with Certex.
Could I ask a question about the mission?
Go ahead.
One?
Go ahead.
Can we get,
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. I thought mission was first.
No, this is.
I decide to
Oh, gotcha, sorry.
Certex first.
Sorry about that, I was lost in space.
That's right. Mission's on the agenda first. Speaking
I
of-
guess on this, sorry.
Change order number
seven, the Surtex, I mean, consider video reason bumps and bruises, this is one of those where, look, we all believe environmentally, we got to protect the environment, things like erosion control, all that, so unfortunate, but I don't. Hopefully they're saying themselves. What are you gonna do?
A boy can dream.
A boy can dream.
I'm going to bed tonight, I can dream.
It was a compliment. I think.
Oh, yeah, no.
It's a compliment for
I don't think
it's a
so.
compliment for the peanut gallery down there tonight. I will. I'm going to make a, maybe, I need a motion. Hold on a second.
We're gonna,
Make
we
up
want
my-
to discuss the mission one too, we can apply.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I can just wrap this up in one motion.
Okay, we do both of them at the same time. All right. So before you is Mission Broadband, again, the request is for an additional $500 at $200 an hour. Mission Broadband, like the same thing that's going on with Zertex, there's some continual work that had not been anticipated. Specifically, and I hate to say this, but I will say, National Grid, Mission Broadband has been on every single phone call because I've been on a lot of them. They've been coordinating splicing, scheduling folks, and we're back in the same situation where this is spring, last fall, scheduling the outage, the splicing, and then delayed, then schedule and delayed. All that takes time, effort, and coordinating staff and meetings and calls. Also, they're working on finalizing some contracts with us. It's not that they would definitely use the $500, but that's what they're looking for at this point.
Just,
Comments?
I'm in, I would vote for this. I think it's maddening, but I just, is there a way to quantify or for them to quantify how many of these hours are sort of attributable to the challenges that National Grid has yes, because it seems to me that this would be a legitimate charge on the cable reburial, not on the taxpayers of the town of New Shoreham. I think we have a claim.
Yeah. I will ask them to take a look at that. I'm sure they can. Yeah. I was just writing a note. I'm sorry.
Amy, may I ask you a question? And I'm only gonna ask Annie because I know Marianne wasn't here at the time of these easements, but this all circles, can you help clarify? This all circles back to the an easement discussion from a time in the past, which I don't remember how far, about the microwave tower over there. Is this all is this the end result of that discussion when they were splicing and we were going back to the microwave tower, and is this kind of tied into that? And I know this whole project is each tied into each step. I think that's what you might tell me, but I'm just wondering, I mean, as I read, as I've read the memo on it, is this part of that, the splice? Talk, go ahead, you probably speak.
So yes, the work that Mission has been doing relative to National Grid and the current splice plan has grown out of that original splice plan and the microwave backup. And all of that work is tied together. So it's a continuation of those events, and the fact that that resolution is a place we haven't arrived at. It is not true that the change order reflects all of that work over time.
No, right.
This is a much more narrow scope relative to the change order. So I didn't know exactly which question you're asking, but.
You answered it.
Okay.
Again, just, it's a rabbit hole.
Big change.
It's a big change. And I agree with what Keith says. It's just kind of like, if you can, I guess it's like, what can you connect to easements we've already had in place But we've had easements that have been paid money to us and for those easements, and it's just like, I don't, obviously, if they're connected, 500 hours at $200 per hour, you know what I mean? Like when we got these easements in the past, we weren't getting enough money. Because we have these costs down on the end that we were unforeseen, you know what I mean? Is that a wrong statement or?
We shouldn't have unforeseen. We shouldn't have-
I think this is an unforeseen, right? That's, I guess what I'm asking. This is an unforeseen because of actions that happened after easements were signed. Or as a result of some of that. I guess what I'm saying is, I agree with Keith.
Yeah, I vote this out. And John is listening in and said, yes, we have to help.
Right, because, I think it's a legitimate question to ask when we're, we have these experts on phone calls to try to help, with national.
It might be an unforeseen, but it's an unforeseen with a lot of zeros at the end of it.
I'll make a motion that we approve Mission Broadband Change Order number 4. Work to be performed on island-wide broadband network project, community anchor institution, and consulting reburial project as pertains to broadband fiber. At 500 hours at $200 per hour. I will further, I can, Millie, what's best? Wrap it up. Further, I'll make a motion to approve Surtex change order number 7, costs associated with erosion control at DEM and CRMC permitted sites. $74,902.50 for DEM and $56,115 for CRMC, for a total of $131,017.50. Second by Sven. All those in favor? Keith, Martha, I'm in favor reluctantly. Keith, Sven and Mark.
No, I think these changes are becoming too common and too expensive.
Motion will carry 4-0. Thank you, Mark, for your comments. Huh? 4-1. 4-1, what did I say? Yeah, it's getting late. Motion will carry 4-1. Thank you, Mark, for your comments. Next item on the agenda is discussed and act on a board commission and committees. Let me get down there on the agenda here. I think the action on that is we're going to make a motion to accept the resignation of Susan Hagedorn from the Deer Task Force with thanks for her service. Can we send her a note thanking her? So I just moved to accept the resignation of Susan Hagedorn from the Deer Task Force with thanks for her service. Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Keith? Martha?
Yes.
I'm in favor. And Sven? Mark? Motion carries 5-0. Second item on that is make a motion to appoint Mary Cerulli to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term expiring December 2024. All those in favor, Keith,
Yes.
Martha, I'm in favor, and Sven, Mark.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Make a motion to appoint the following to the Sewer Commission and Water Commission. Brad Martins is a full member for the 5-year term. Diane Haight as an alternate for a 1-year term. And Lars Trotson as an alternate for a 1-year term. Seconded by Sven. Comments? All those in favor? Keith? Martha? I am in favor. Sven? And Mark. Motion will carry 5-0. I'd like to announce the following vacancies. Commissioner of Motor Vehicles for Hire. We still have a 3-year position that must not hold a motor vehicle for hire license. Deer Task Force, there is now 2 2-year terms. Senior Advisory Committee, there is a 1-year term on that board. Does the Deer Task Force have enough members for a quorum to meet?
They do. They have 3 members still.
Can you remember who's left? Do you know?
Matt Moynihan.
Yep.
And Tom Walsh. And Marianne Scott.
The ones whose names aren't flagged.
I'm not that far down on my agenda, but. Okay. Millie, no more cheat notes because it keeps my eyes off the agenda here. I mean, I just, you know, and then I obviously get called out from the right over here, so, next item on the agenda is the correspondence of Gary Pollard regarding legislation, Class T beverage license. Barbara McMillan, Block Island Land Trust regarding housing opportunities. Victor Hong regarding speed bumps. Sarah Bacon regarding traffic study funding. Item number 16 is approve the minutes of March 22nd, 2022, March 7th, 2022, open and closed. March 16th, 2022, open and closed, and March 17th, 2022, open and closed, and March 22nd. March 28th, 2022. Does anybody have any issues with those minutes? I can do them as a lot, or if not, if you've got anything, got any issues with anything closed, we gotta go into closed for it. You know the drill. Make a motion to approve the minutes of March 2nd, 2022, March 7th, 2022, open and closed, March 16th, 2022, open and closed, and March 17th, 2022, open and closed, and March 22nd, 22, March 28th, 2022. Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Mark? Sven? I'm in favor. Martha? And Keith. Approval of the minutes passes 5-0. Legislative agenda, item 17. See legislative item list. Does anybody have any comments on the legislative, or if we want to go over it? Let me get down there.
I just had two questions.
Yeah.
One is,
hold on, let me pull it up. I got it. Okay, go ahead.
one is really a question for Millie, and that is if we decide to go up and as a group and be supportive of the housing bill, do we have to notice that?
Good question. I don't think so. You're not gonna be having any conversations among yourselves about policy.
I mean,
You're just gonna be making a presentation.
certainly won't be speaking with Mark Emanuel.
Years ago.
Yeah. Stop. Don't get it.
There was a case up in Pawtucket maybe, where somebody had actually called on that, and because we went away as a group and got in one car and went to Providence, we noticed it.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I just wanted to avoid.
But we won't be in the same car.
Gray said. You don't want to explain it to Providence once.
So do you want me to notice that?
Well,
No,
this was after.
I don't think we
that.
need to notice it.
Okay, great.
I think we're gonna see each other in the building. I don't think we're not going up as a group in a van like it happened last time all together. And as Keith says, we are certainly gonna be making Mark Trail. I mean, on April 12th, we have to go testify on behalf of the housing bill. Is there gonna be 3 counselors in the building? Is there gonna be 5 counselors in the building? What counselor is gonna commit to it? I think good numbers are there. I plan on saying something if I'm needed to say something. I think Cindy Pappas has in the past gotten this passed through the Senate. She's very well received at the State House. I don't think that if the first ward needs to say something in introduction, I'm not sure how it's gonna go down, but I'm happy to do that. I will be there. But I don't know.
I was thinking I would go just to sort of be a body, so that they could say, so that Cindy could say there are town councilors here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you look into that to give us a definitive answer? I mean, I don't think we need to do it.
It depends how
We're going up there to talk about, to support one of our resolutions. We're not talking about town business. Certainly not going out drinking with those two.
Well, I told you there was a problem with another town, and that's the reason we did it.
Yeah, please look at it.
Probably should have asked, but
You just do it.
yeah.
Do it and it's done.
Exactly.
You just do, no, I said just do a notice and it's done.
Yeah, but
we are gonna try and meet with the housing, or whoever goes up, if there's a chance to meet with the housing czar, that would, I mean.
Yeah, that's what you should try to do.
Then that's gotta be posted, obviously, that would be a great opportunity, even if it's just a few people, I understand. That's what we had talked about before.
I think there would be value. Yeah, sure. Even if it's.
And then lobby for the project. Take them on the board, for you guys.
Happy hour bills, we got a resolution, we got the resolution, just want to go through the list. Allow low-speed vehicles, we dismissed it. And the definition of affordable housing on Block Island, obviously, that's what we've been talking about, that's next week. Address the disparity between income and housing price, Stover, I guess that's not gonna be this
I
year,
just had a,
right?
you know,
Um,
I don't think so.
I think there should be left for the historical record, but,
Yeah.
just, assess a tax on the nightly vacation housing market to support the housing board. Those were ideas in the tax base, that's gonna be next year, I would imagine. Allow apprentices to work, building official update with the town council. And, you know, what do you wanna do? Well, is that a legislative agenda item?
I don't know.
Not this year. Okay, I'm just trying to focus on what we're gonna do this
Yeah.
year. To match, create a program to match funds in the town to provide training. Create a tax credit program for tradesmen who work in underserved areas, pursue sea level rise funding. RISM, that's you. Not this year?
Not legislative, not.
Okay. Millie, you wanna make a list of these things that were the ones we need to still talk about, and then the ones that might wanna be, I don't wanna separate these from the list, because I want them to still be there for the record, for people to come back and look at and say, oh yeah, we talked about that, let's pick that up. I don't wanna lose them. Thank you, Kim. Raise the landing fee to fund health and safety services, meet with interstate, town council, was there a couple of councils working on that?
That's a really, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because one of the things that when we had our annual meeting with Interstate, we asked them was, because it felt like our conversation always occurred after they had already set the boat schedule.
Right.
And
I
it
think one of the
always
things-
will.
But yeah, one of the things we requested was a shift in time or a second meeting to talk about scheduling issues.
But were you working with?
Yeah, so Marianne and I met with Bill and Josh, and I think we should have an agenda coming up just to relay what we talked about and next steps about timing, landing fees, that kind of thing. So we can maybe put that on the next agenda, Millie? Is that fair, Marianne? I mean, just more about what was talked about and what do we want to do?
Yeah.
So let's do that on another.
Yeah, I
agenda.
definitely want to see them.
Yes,
I don't want.
and then timing was a topic.
We can set that, can we set that, is that a May thing or June or what? It's a work session.
I think the earlier the better. Can't hurt.
Yeah, before they start putting together the next year's schedule.
He's probably already printed.
So
It's always printed,
2029.
it's always printed the day before our meeting.
Are you wanting to take?
But they never have it.
No, an agenda item, which would be update on interstate meetings,
Sure.
period.
Okay.
Or you can say, town manager and whatever.
Okay, but you're not setting a separate meeting.
No, it's just an agenda item on our.
Let's make that a work session, right? I think it'd be better to fill it on a work session, don't you?
I was just gonna do an update as to what our conversation was. and then-
Oh, okay, yep.
It was a short
All right,
update, and then we could.
I thought you were talking about a work
That's why I say
session.
it's 2 o'clock.
I will keep my mouth shut. Hold on a minute. It's not, let me finish this. Sea level funding relays, traffic grants, ongoing. Change municipal finance legislation to decrease base cap regarding annual budget increases.
I think we should talk about how that works for us as our government grows.
Yeah, I think it's a great legislative agenda topic. Legislative
I
agenda.
mean, it was, remember, these came when we were gonna have a conversation sort of about the legislative. thing. We had one that I had.
Yep.
But that's.
We can't move forward and have nice things if we don't have big ideas that we're willing to try out. The question that I've emphasized, willing to try. Explain class 2 liquor license definition. That's definition to include historic theaters in New Shoreham. Obviously, we saw that letter come into us this evening. Well, I think we can tell, then nobody knows what to get back to them with.
I thought we decided.
I thought we said no.
We're not pursuing it. Did somebody get back to him with that?
Can't anybody petition the assembly if they want something?
Like anybody can do it. He doesn't need a resolution from the council. He could go do it.
I think we told him that, but then. Right, I don't know, are you asking me to educate them?
Well, no, we received a letter as part of.
If he does know that, if he does know that you have it, that's fine. It was early, muddy when he was here. Wasn't this?
Right, and I think that, so we have a response to his letter? We will tonight, because we don't want to pursue it. Isn't that what we want to?
Yeah, are you asking me? We should.
We should respond. Gary Pollard. Sorry?
So he was requesting,
You don't have this, Mary? Marianne?
Yeah, he's requesting that they.
I am running to follow up on a letter I sent to the council about a requesting the state to pass legislation allowing Block Island to liquor service at theaters. Is there anything I can do to expedite this so I'm able to apply for a tea liquor license in the fall? My goal is to be able to still run the Empire as a playhouse in the evening since the long-term viability of playing movies is in question. Playhouses typically are allowed to sell alcohol to help fund live productions. If movie theater attendance nationally doesn't improve dramatically between now and the summer, we won't be playing movies this summer. If we can't make the Empire viable as a playhouse, it is likely to be shuttered for good as a theater, as has happened to many theaters across the country. I think we need to let Gary Pollard know that we don't want to pursue this, but he can. Just to respond to that correspondence that we have.
My recollection is that there were some shortcomings in his concept of what a tea license was, and that what he wanted, which is a for-profit. There were only 2 examples in the state, and those had clearly pursued their own exemption for the tea license. The tea license is limited to nonprofit playhouses.
And we pointed those out during the meeting.
Yeah, so I felt more like it was
I'm back on.
part of his development of his business as opposed to a town policy.
All right, so we can send him a letter saying that the town council has decided not to pursue that. All right, good. Zoning up, but he can too on his own. Local control of car rentals. That is a local control of car and investigate the law. We can discuss that later. Potty bike legislation. I thought we were going to oppose this. I think we should put it on the, well, has it been heard yet?
The last I saw of it was, it was strictly,
We need to give
what was
information.
going on, it was strictly authorized for bicycles, and that was it.
No liquor?
And no, that's the last, I mean, again, this is general assembly.
Okay, but we would also need to approve this by, we could also pass our own ordinance. I believe is
It was
to not allow it.
The way that it's drafted, but to Marion's point, who knows where that's up, it was they were permitted under the state statute, but only in towns that passed an ordinance.
Allowing it.
That's how I remember it.
So if the legislature passes this, this legislative session, chief, then we still have a recourse here? Okay, thank you.
But I want to revisit, I thought we were going to oppose it because of one, congestion, accidents, traffic, drinking and biking. I mean, I thought when we had this discussion, we were going to not support it. I mean, maybe not. So we want to discuss it again at the next meeting or.
Well, I think I think the vote's been taken already upstate. Haven't they heard this already? Chief, can you help me out with that? Haven't they heard this?
I'm not sure.
At least on the Senate side? If there's still time, we can send a letter of opposition. Tourism, Marion, I'm just gonna keep going while you're looking at that. You can feel free to. Tourism Improvement District, we have a presentation on that April 7th. Relating to women's education, fairness in women's sports, and relating to education curriculum. I haven't dove into those. I don't know what I don't know what they are, to tell you the truth, at this time. Anybody want to discuss those last two items? Any have any? All right, we'll take a look. Let us know what you want to do.
I think we should definitely discuss those at the next meeting.
Did Title IX follow the face of it?
Title IX.
Let's put those on, not on the agenda. Let's make sure we cover those, because those are timely and at least one of them tricky. Okay.
I'm gonna just ask you guys about, and I know the answer to it, is having a discussion like Alicia brought up this evening about the land trust legislation and the tax. Do we want to have that community discussion in a sane manner? I guess. Do we want to have the discussion about what Alicia brought up tonight about land trust funds being diverted to housing issues?
I know the conservation group want it.
They want to have the discussion. Okay.
They want to have it. Yes, because they're not big fans of it.
Right.
I think that would be not one.
Yes, I
I need to have it kill it.
But I like to hear pros and cons.
Yeah, it's always, obviously, the concern in the past was always, don't touch it, you'll lose it, and that's,
Right.
but that said, and maybe this is something else that we can look at, or thought about, it's been 20 years. When, 20 years ago, we increased the, first time home buyer exemption. It had not been increased since the legislation was passed. And we've been told, don't touch it because you'll lose it. And that was the same day that everything else was approved. And it was passed. And I don't remember what it is now. That might be something we want to look at.
I have a couple of thoughts on this. One is, I think, we have some momentum, and I really worry about having this conversation sort of carry apart the conversation we're having around housing. I really do. That's not to say that I don't think that a transfer tax is a great way to fund affordable housing, you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I get that part of it. I just, and frankly, and this is just a sort of pragmatic position. We go through all of, fight and struggle on that. And if the realtors on Block Island and the realtors in Rhode Island don't want to do it, it's not going to happen. So we have this crossfire skirmish that really roils the whole housing conversation here without I don't have a lot of optimism that there's a lot of opposition from those groups that's ever going to happen.
And before, when we did the legislation, both the initial legislation on the land trust, the change in the land trust and the housing board, we did not have any realtors who were not independent. They were all home-based, all, no ties to anybody else, nobody's tied in with any big company. And so it was a lot easier to have them all, I think. They have more independence than some of them might today. I don't know what the corporate structure is, but I think. I think that, one of the opinions, that looking at a separate avenue rather than saying, we're taking it from here. If you're gonna try to get something else, you will need to get something in addition. I just don't, I think it's worth the,
That's why that discussion would be a good idea.
I think discussion, the first discussion should be the, lands.
Yes, well, all the conservation groups.
Well, I think,
Land trust.
I guess-
Legislation.
I think what Martha just said is really, really important. And that is maybe we approach this as a separate item, void of land trust. At least I heard that. In the sense that if we want to have, I'm going to use the number 2%, and we want to move forward on how do we support affordable housing? How do we support attainable housing, especially given what's happened in the housing market? And we want to have that 2% levy. I'm making that number up. I think that as a discussion could actually fly. Housing is such a big deal in Providence, at the Capitol, in the legislature. Affordable housing is a huge deal. So, I mean, this may be the time that kind of thing could actually pass as a separate thing, keeping it totally separate from any other levy / land trust dialogue. Because I actually, from everything I'm hearing, that's the number one problem right now, is it's on everybody's mind. So it'd be hard to vote against the ability, hey, if you're buying a $5 million house, and that 2% could go towards affordable, attainable housing, that may fly.
And that was
I mean, that's a separate isolated piece.
And not to be taking it from somebody.
No, separate, isolated, yep, and then they don't catch the cat fight.
Yeah.
I actually, it'd be interesting if you guys want to talk to Rick about it. I think that actually could be a really fascinating topic right now.
And that goes back to the old thing we've always had about, we're different, yeah, we are, so let us use the tools that we have to solve our problems. And
Yeah.
or maybe Providence can't do it, but maybe we can.
But I think Westerly would jump on it. I think Narragansett would. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you, and I think there could get momentum in the State House for it.
Okay, so another assessment outside the land trust.
I'd rather not
Excuse
bring
me.
the land trust in the 5% or the 3% of the gap.
I get it. So we don't want to have this discussion,
I'd love to have discussion of a separate levy for housing.
but not the land,
Nothing to
what
do-
Alicia brought up. That's all I'm asking to put on there. We can put what you're saying on there, but we need to.
Yes, I agree with you. I
Because the
don't want
group,
to, I don't want to.
because I brought that up originally to and I brought it, the way I brought it up to the housing board was not necessarily mess with the land trust's legislation. Put it together, put it in as a separate housing bill, just to allow us to use those funds.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm in
Right.
agreement with what you.
Right. But it still would take from the land trust pot,
Oh, no, then I'm not, okay.
right? Because there's
No.
that transfer fee. But if you think there's another way, let's try to put it on this discussion on the agenda.
And to be very clear, I'm saying has nothing to do with land trust, has nothing to do with anything right now that's any levies. I would consider introducing a new levy on real estate purchases.
Over a certain price.
Over a certain price at 2%, I'm making that number up, that would go only to affordable, attainable housing
Right.
on Block Island. Period, nothing to do with anything else.
And we also have to keep in mind that, again, over a certain price, I think, because it's cash, you gotta pay, like the land trust fee is cash, you can put that in, wrap that up in your
Over $1
mortgage.
million.
Yeah, no, we can have that discussion.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But
I'm as a starting
I think-
point, because there aren't many that are under $1 million.
So where do you want to leave that? Do you want to do that for this year, legislative agenda? Do you want to have the discussion for this year? Or is it getting late?
That's up to everybody. I think it's too late, in my personal
Yeah.
opinion, but I don't know what you guys think. And I'd rather tee it up, work with Rick and get it done right. Yeah. But it's you guys.
Let's talk to Rick about it.
Municipal stuff goes in late.
Okay. Let's
I'd
talk
love to get
to,
it. I mean, let's put it on the table if Rick thinks it's hot. Let's do it.
I think anything housing would be hot.
Yeah, I know the timing is intensely.
Okay.
Is this under legislative agenda or is this a separate agenda item? Or-
Leave it under, we
Or is
would,
it going to the housing?
well, we would need legislative change.
I'll talk to Rick and see if
The new
because municipal legislation was due, I forget the date, so we're well beyond that, however.
We always put something.
Yeah. So.
So I guess then to answer your question, Millie, based on that, if it's possible, let's get it on the next agenda, have something written up, and then we can all debate it and go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Next item on the agenda is, are we all set with legislative agenda?
Thank you.
Okay. Receive, discuss, and act on updates regarding negotiations between Rhode Island Council 94, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Local 2855, New Shore Employees Association, and the Town of New Shore and New Shore School Committee. This item may be discussed in closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A2, sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation. Obviously, I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Just 5 minutes, 7 minutes, just update you.
Oh, no, take your time. Oh, no, yeah.
That's my performance on the crib notes.
Oh, that was fun.
I did not review, I did not review any of them.
She gives me the grid notes first time ever, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Oh, the dates are wrong.
Don't have copies. I got the first one, so.
So wait a minute, I can't tell you that she did that on purpose to see.
Literally walked in there and said, well, that's why I don't want to come back. Making the girls with the Boy Scouts, you guys trying to turn them into slave laborers. Literally the first thing, I walked through the door, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna find out when those public hearing dates are, so I don't have to look unprofessional and ask in a meeting. She's like, here, I made your notes about your motions. I'm like, perfect, thank you. What about those public hearing dates? And she's like, oh, no, those aren't on there.
I was standing next to you, I don't remember her preparing the. Good thing is, the Boy Scouts are gonna be helping in the clerk, so.
She's leaving.
Hey, be nice, my work.
She wants to keep talking.
She wants to coach about you. And you're right into the ways.
All right, let's go watch the desk.
All right, what do we
Oh,
got?
that's
Coming
right.
out of closed session?
Coming out of closed session, second.
Are we, wait, hold on. Are we doing something? Really? No, it's not on me.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Right?
Thank you, everybody, for waiting around. Make a motion, make an announcement that, no votes were taken during the closed session. And I'll make a motion to seal the minutes.
Second?
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Pete?
Yes.
Martha? Sven?
Aye.
And Mark? I'm in favor. Motion carries 5-0. Motion to adjourn. Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Martha? Mark? Aye. Sven? Aye. Pete? I in favor. Motion granted. Motion carries. See you tomorrow. What time's tomorrow?
11:15.
No, wait,